has to show.
I'm sure that most of you have seen the movie Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. If you have, if you're one of my family members, you might have seen it at least 1,000 times. Though if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend watching it. In the movie, we watch as Puss's character loses his passion for life as he begins to live in fear of death. Not only is this a cute, colorful film with a creative plot, but it holds a lot of meaning behind it, which is why I love it so much. Today, I'll be speaking about the true message of the movie Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. I'll be touching on the personification of death in the movie, Puss's fear of death and his anxiety, and the overcoming of that fear. Creating a character goes beyond finding a color palette. A well-developed character has distinct traits and frustrations that separate them from other characters. For the wolf, Death, his main frustration is that Puss has wasted 8 of his lives and living out his shallow legend and did not value any of them. So, Death decided to take his final life early, believing he does not deserve to live it. Unlike the character Purito, who teaches Puss that one life is enough if it's been growing interpersonal relationships with others. The film centers around a universal fear, the fear of death. This is a fear that most humans experience at some point in their lives. For Puss, who had been given 9 lives, death seemed like a faraway concept. In the beginning of the movie, Puss was self-centered and arrogant, believing he was unbeatable. He laughed at death until he came face to face with it. After his encounter with death, he began to fear it so much that he stopped living a life that he loved. He passed time being a house cat, eating cat food, and using a litter box. Until he stole the map to the Wishing Star, desperate to gain 9 more lives so that he could get his life back. Speaking, of course, about the shallow life that he led, the shallow life of fame and glory that he led. Puss's fear is evident throughout the film. He shows physical symptoms such as his hair raising, heart racing, and panic attacks when something reminds him of the wolf. This connects the audience with what he is feeling. Overall, the movie displayed an accurate representation of what anxiety feels like, which is difficult to achieve in any movie, let alone a children's movie. Until a certain point, Puss in Boots was ashamed of his fear. He thought that because he had based his entire life, an entire legend on being a fearless hero, he was not allowed to be afraid. This belief was present until he talked with Purito, who told him that it was okay to be afraid. And this was his first step into accepting and overcoming those fears. When Puss first encountered death, the 8 lives he had lived flashed before his eyes. The moments shown were mostly of his adventures, which were his main reason for being alive at that point. However, at the battle in the end of the movie, we only see bits of his 9th life that he enjoyed. These moments were with his friends and family. This represents the fact that he had completely repurposed his life. Instead of choosing to wish for the 9 lives so that he could be invincible and immortal, he chose to spend 1 life with Purito and Kitty Softpaws and says to death that he will never stop fighting for it. This is why Death lets Puss in Boots live, because he is no longer the arrogant legend that he wanted dead. He had found the true meaning of his life. In the end, Puss didn't conquer his fear by avoiding it. Instead, he accepted death because it is inevitable, and chooses to spend his life with Kitty Softpaws and Perito, making the most of what time he has left. In conclusion, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish conquers many heavy topics, such as anxiety and death, flawlessly in a way that both children and adults can understand. As Jeff Barton says, once we understand that life ends, we can begin to live.